Welcome in, everybody. Ready to dive into some serious pop culture today. We're tackling the Queen of Reinvention herself, Madonna.
Definitely an icon, and we'll be going way beyond just the music. We've got biographies, articles, old interviews, the works, really getting into how she transformed pop culture and challenged all those societal norms.
That's the exciting part, reinvention. It's almost like her superpower. So where do we even begin with a career this huge?
Well, the early years are always key, right? One thing that jumps out from the sources is how much losing her mom so young impacted Madonna.
She was only 5 when her mom passed from breast cancer. That's got to leave a mark.
Totally, and some biographers suggest it really fueled her drive. Like she had to be strong to be heard, almost the opposite of the frailty she might have associated with her mom's illness.
Makes sense, and then you see that defiant spirit in her teens, too. Strict Catholic upbringing. Madonna was rebelling.
Oh yeah, sources describe her pushing those boundaries already, exploring her sexuality through dance, even posing nude for money because she needed it.
Not your average Catholic schoolgirl, huh? But you can see the ambition, that willingness to break the mold was already there.
Absolutely. Even before the fame, that desire to be seen, to make a statement, it's all over these early accounts.
So was there one moment where it all clicked, where this drive turned into the Madonna we know?
Moving to New York City, that was huge. Picture this. 1978, she lands with like $35 in a dream, straight into the craziness of the music scene there.
It had to be a wild time in New York back then, all that creative energy.
And Madonna thrived on it. Even her early music, you hear it. Holiday, Lucky Star, catchy pop, sure, but with this independent streak underneath.
Then boom, like a virgin explodes. That MTV performance, I mean, come on.
Talk about iconic. The wedding dress, the mood, so provocative. It was like she was redefining what a female pop star could do on stage.
Right. Not just singing about virginity, but owning the imagery, turning it on its head. You can't overstate how much that challenged the 80s, especially how women were supposed to be about sex.
And she did it with this confidence, this charisma that people just connected with, especially women suddenly hear someone saying it's okay to own your desires, to challenge the rules.
Totally. She was bold, pushing those boundaries,
Yeah.
and people had opinions, that's for sure.
But that's part of what made her Madonna. She sparked those conversations, even if it meant controversy. And remember, this was all happening as the AIDS crisis was unfolding.
A really tough time. So much fear and stigma around sexuality in general, let alone within the LGBTQ+ community.
Exactly, which makes her next move even more significant. Instead of shying away, she leans in.
Blonde ambition, right? That tour was a spectacle, to put it mildly.
Cone bras, choreography that was super sexual, religious imagery mixed in.
Yeah.
She was challenging everything people thought was moral and making them deal with it.
It was like, here I am, world, trying to ignore this.
Yeah.
And nobody could.
But there was depth to it, too. It wasn't just shock. It was about female sexuality, control, owning those things. And the LGBTQ+ community, they saw an ally, someone fearless enough to fight for visibility when so many others stayed silent.
Using a pop concert to tackle these huge issues, that's powerful stuff. Really shows how pop culture can be a force for change.
No doubt about it. Blonde Ambition wasn't just entertainment. It was a cultural moment. Madonna challenging the status quo and using her power to amplify voices that were often ignored.
And this was still relatively early in her career. Hard to imagine what comes next.
Oh, she wasn't done. Provocation was just one side of it, remember? Her constant reinvention, that meant exploring music, visuals, even spirituality.
All right, now I'm really intrigued.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so we've seen how Madonna used music, tours like Blonde Ambition, to really challenge what people thought was okay, especially for women. But she didn't stop there, did she?
Not even close. If anything, that's when things got even more interesting. Adapting, evolving, that's key to understanding Madonna.
Like, when she decided to play Eva Peron in Evita, that was a huge E-swing.
Right. Not exactly the obvious move for the material girl. Some folks straight up doubted she could pull it off.
The sources mentioned there was a lot of, can she really act? Talk going around.
But typical Madonna, she goes all in. Vocal lessons, immersing herself in Argentinian culture, even met with the president to understand the real Eva Peron.
Like, she was proving everyone wrong, but I get the feeling it was more than that, right?
Definitely. This was a personal shift, too. Filming Evita, she becomes a mom for the first time, and she's exploring Kabbalah, that mystical side of Judaism. All of that feeds into her music.
You hear it on Ray of Light, for sure, electronic sounds, but then the lyrics are about Motherhood, spirituality, a whole new vibe.
Reinvention gets deeper, yeah. It's
Yeah.
not just image anymore, it's her whole worldview evolving, and the music reflects that.
But she keeps that edge, right? Even with the spiritual stuff, she's still pushing buttons.
Oh yeah, case in point, American Life. This is post 9/11 America, and she's tackling consumerism, disillusionment, heavy stuff. Bold move for the time.
Not afraid to get political, even if it means some fans aren't happy.
Controversy never scared her off, almost like she knew it meant she was hitting a nerve, making people think.
And this is all while she's got the fame, relationships, motherhood. Sources even mention the whole Guy Ritchie era, whirlwind romance and all that.
Another transformation period for sure. Some of her music from then has that British influence, the lyrics are more mature, reflecting on love, fame, the whole deal.
Like she's soaking up all these experiences and putting them into her art, always taking risks, experimenting.
And then there's her business side, can't forget that. 1992, she starts Maverick, her own entertainment company. Huge GE control over her music, image, the money too.
Groundbreaking for a woman in music back then, shows her business smarts.
More than that, it's about being in charge. Not just a performer, but a mogul calling the shots. And Maverick was successful, launched other artists' careers too.
Madonna, as this savvy businesswoman, owning her narrative, it adds another layer to the whole reinvention thing.
Exactly, and it's consistent, right? From that rebellious teen to pop icon to actress to spiritual seeker to businesswoman breaking the mold. Hard to think of anyone else with a career this diverse.
And through it all, she's HR, authentic, pushing what's possible. It's kind of inspiring.
Totally. So, big question now. What's the takeaway for us? What can we learn from all this Madonna-ness?
Well, change is going to happen, that's for sure. Maybe the lesson is to embrace that. Let it fuel your creativity.
Not just changing looks, but challenging yourself constantly. New ideas, not being afraid to break away from what's expected.
Having the guts to be different, stand out, use your voice for what you believe in, that's powerful stuff.
Speaking of voices, remember that quiz we promised? Ready to test your Madonna knowledge? See how her legacy is still shaping pop music today.
Bring it on. Let's see what you've got. All right, time to put that Madonna knowledge to the test. Get ready for a little pop culture challenge.
Let's see if you were really paying attention, digging deep into all these Madonna details.
First up, think back to one of those classic early Madonna videos. The one that was basically a love letter to Marilyn Monroe, all glitz and glamour.
I bet you're picturing it right now, all those diamonds, the pink dress.
Material Girl, of course. Next one. We talked about how Madonna never backed down from a little controversy, even if it meant getting banned. Which video got the axe from MTV for being too hot to handle?
Definitely pushed the limits of what they thought was okay on TV back then.
Justify My Love. You got it. This one's a bit trickier. Think about some of the biggest pop stars today. Lady Gaga, Britney, Christina, Beyonce. Who has not specifically named Madonna as a big influence on their career?
They've all taken inspiration in different ways, but one of them stands out as having a more unique path.
Beyonce, right. She's recognized Madonna's impact on the industry, but her sound, her message, it's always been distinctly her own. Last question. This one goes back to Madonna the businesswoman. What did she create in 1992 that gave her so much control over her music, her whole business empire?
A total power move paved the way for a lot of artists to take charge of their careers.
It was Maverick, her own entertainment company. Got to admire that entrepreneurial spirit.
So how'd you do? A little taste of how deep you've gone down the Madonna rabbit hole.
What's really cool is seeing how her influence is still everywhere in pop culture, even now. Her style, the attitude, that fearlessness, it echoes in so many artists who came after her.
Shows you how powerful her impact was, and still is. She didn't just make music, she created a whole movement, encouraging people to be themselves, to challenge those norms.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, what are your final thoughts? What really stands out to you about Madonna's story?
Honestly, it's that she never stopped reinventing herself. No single image, no era defined her. She kept pushing forward, evolving, creatively restless.
That's got to be inspiring to anyone, right? You don't have to stay stuck. You can grow, change, keep becoming a new version of yourself.
And she proved that being your true self, even when people push back, even when it's uncomfortable, that can be the most powerful thing at all.
So to everyone listening out there, take a piece of that Madonna fearlessness with you today. What resonated with you? What can you create? What change can you make?
Maybe it's time to embrace a little change yourself, to be bolder, to break out of that box and really use your voice.
And hey, if you find yourself striking a pose or two along the way, no judgment here. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep on reinventing yourselves.